The crystal champagne flute slipped from my fingers as my sister's words cut through the ambient chatter of the grand ballroom. Time seemed to slow as I watched it tumble, the expensive liquid creating a starburst pattern across the pristine white tablecloth. 100 pairs of eyes turned toward the sound, then quickly shifted back to Barbara's triumphant smile at the podium. "The board has agreed that the company needs unified leadership to move forward," she announced, her voice carrying across the now silent room. "Effective immediately, I will be taking over as sole CEO." My vision narrowed to a pinpoint, focused entirely on my father's face. Lawrence wasn't looking at me. He was nodding along with Barbara's words, a proud smile lighting his features as she continued her character assassination disguised as a corporate announcement. "Some people," she said, her voice dripping with false sympathy, "are better suited to technical roles rather than leadership. My sister Olivia has been adequate in maintaining our legacy systems. But to compete in today's market, we need vision. We need excellence." Her gaze locked with mine across the room. "And frankly, Olivia, you're just not cut out for this level of business." The weight of hundreds of stares pressed against my skin as industry leaders, clients, and employees, people who had worked directly with me for years, witnessed my public execution. 10 years of sacrifice, of 14-hour days and missed holidays, of transforming our family's struggling repair shop into a $50 million enterprise, erased with a single speech at our father's 60th birthday celebration. "My name is Olivia. I'm 32 and a software developer. This is the story of how I reclaimed what was rightfully mine after my family tried to erase me from my own creation." For a decade, I had been the quiet force behind Walker Technologies' transformation. While Barbara climbed the corporate ladder at a prestigious consulting firm in New York, I stayed behind, developing our first proprietary software, a simple but effective tool for small businesses to manage their inventory. It wasn't revolutionary, but it was user-friendly and affordable. When local businesses started buying licenses, our little computer repair shop began its metamorphosis into something much bigger. I had always known I was second place in my father's eyes. Barbara was his golden child, the one who got straight A's and went to an elite business school with his blessing. I was the practical one who stayed behind, pursuing my computer science degree at a local college while helping him keep the shop afloat. "Olivia, you're wasting your potential here," Barbara would say during her occasional visits home, her designer handbag casually dropped on counters, still sticky with thermal paste from my latest repair job. "You should aim higher." But I saw something in our little shop that others didn't: potential. While Barbara studied theoretical business models, I was learning real-world programming and spotting gaps in the market that no one else seemed to notice. 5 years into our transformation, we hit our first $1 million in annual revenue. That's when Barbara suddenly became interested in the family business again. She quit her job in New York and moved back home. "I think it's time I took my rightful place in the company," she announced at a family dinner, champagne already in hand. "With my business expertise, we could really take things to the next level." My father beamed at her words. "That's wonderful, Princess. We could use your professional touch around here." I sat there, fork suspended midair, trying to process what was happening. The company I had built from nearly nothing was being handed to my sister on a silver platter. But I swallowed my objections and tried to be a team player. Barbara was appointed as co-CEO alongside me, despite having no experience in our industry. Dad said it would be good for the company image to have someone with her credentials at the helm. I focused on product development and operations while she handled marketing and investor relations. The next 5 years were a study in contrast. While I continued developing new software solutions and maintaining client relationships, Barbara focused on creating a glamorous image for herself as the face of the company. She gave interviews about being a woman in tech and accepted awards for entrepreneurship, all while taking credit for innovations my team and I had created. Our revenue continued to grow, reaching $50 million annually, but so did the tension between us. Barbara began excluding me from key meetings, making decisions without consulting me, and slowly pushing me to the sidelines of my own creation. During this period, I made two strategic decisions that no one, not even Barbara with her MBA, paid attention to. First, I quietly began purchasing additional shares whenever they became available from minor investors, careful to keep my growing ownership stake under the radar. Second, I established Renovate Solutions LLC as a separate entity that actually owned the intellectual property rights to our core software, with Walker Technologies operating under a licensing agreement. This was a standard industry practice that Barbara, despite her business acumen, never bothered to investigate. Then came Dad's 60th birthday party, the day everything changed. The party was Barbara's idea, of course. She rented the grand ballroom of the city's most expensive hotel and invited all our business associates. It was more of a networking event than a birthday celebration, but that was Barbara's style. Everything had to serve a purpose. I arrived early to help with the preparations, wearing a simple black dress that Barbara immediately criticized. "Couldn't you have made more of an effort?" she hissed. "These are important people coming tonight." As I sat there, watching the champagne soak into the tablecloth after Barbara's announcement, a strange calm settled over me. Everyone expected a scene, perhaps tears, maybe a shouting match. Instead, I slowly stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. The sound echoed through the ballroom like a gunshot. I walked to Dad's table and placed a small wrapped package in front of him. "Happy birthday, Dad," I said quietly. Then I walked out of the ballroom, head held high, leaving behind the whispers and stares. That night, as I sat in my home office surrounded by awards and patents that bore my name, I made a decision. Barbara thought she had won, but she had forgotten one crucial detail, something that would turn her moment of triumph into the biggest mistake of her life. My fingers flew across the keyboard until 3 a.m., crafting emails that would change everything. I sent detailed messages to our key clients explaining the licensing situation, included documentation proving my majority ownership, and outlined how the company would operate under my sole leadership with guaranteed continuity of service. To our loyal employees, I sent a separate email revealing Barbara's plans to restructure departments and cut the very teams that had built our success. A small smile played on my lips as I finally hit send. Tomorrow would be interesting indeed. After all, there's more than one way to run a successful business, and I had learned more in 10 years than Barbara had learned in all her fancy business classes. The next morning dawned bright and clear. I arrived at the office early before anyone else and waited. At precisely 9 a.m., Barbara strode through the front doors with Dad beside her, both wearing triumphant smiles that were about to be wiped from their faces. "Olivia?" Barbara's voice held a mix of surprise and annoyance. "What are you doing here? I thought after last night you'd have the dignity to stay home." I smiled, remembering the email I had sent hours earlier to every major client, partner, and employee of Walker Technologies. "Just wrapping up some loose ends, sister dear. But since you're here, we should probably talk about the company's future." "There's nothing to discuss," Dad interjected, his voice firm. "Barbara's in charge now. The board has already approved it." "Yes, the board," I said, pulling out my tablet. "Let's talk about that." I connected my device to the conference room's main screen, pulling up a document that made both their faces pale. You see, while Barbara was busy planning parties and giving interviews, I was actually building this company, and there are a few things you both seem to have forgotten. My heart pounded against my ribs, but my voice remained steady as I continued. "First, let me remind you that I own 51% of Walker Technologies shares." The color drained from both their faces. Barbara's perfectly manicured hands gripped the conference table. "That's impossible," she whispered. "Dad would never—" "What he did," I continued, pulling up more documents, "was sell me an additional 26% of the shares 3 years ago when we needed capital for expansion. Remember that day, Dad? You were too busy attending Barbara's awards ceremony to handle the negotiations yourself, so you signed the papers without reading them carefully." Dad collapsed into a chair, realization dawning on his face. "The renewal papers," he muttered. "The ones you asked me to sign last week, the ones I was too busy to read because I was helping Barbara plan the party." "Yes, those papers," I nodded. I decided not to submit them, and that's not all. The core software that generates 80% of our revenue, it's not owned by Walker Technologies. It's owned by my separate company, Renovate Solutions, LLC. Walker Technologies only has a licensing agreement, which expired. I checked my watch with theatrical precision. About 10 minutes ago. Through the glass walls, we could see employees gathering, whispers spreading as they checked their emails. Barbara's perfect composure cracked as she frantically checked her phone. "You can't do this," she stammered. "The company you tried to steal from me?" I finished for her. "The one you thought you could just take over because you have an MBA and Dad's approval? That company ceased to exist the moment you decided to humiliate me in front of everyone we know." The weight I'd carried for years, the quiet resentment, the overlooked achievements, the constant need to prove my worth, lifted as I stood up, smoothing my dress. So here are your options. Option 1. I walk away with my shares, my software, my clients, and my employees. Walker Technologies becomes an empty shell, and you can explain to all those important people you invited last night why the company's value dropped to 0 overnight. Dad's face had aged 10 years in the last 10 minutes. And option 2? He asked weakly. Option 2, you both resign. I take full control of Walker Technologies. You keep your shares as silent partners, receiving dividends but having no say in operations. Barbara gets a nice severance package and glowing references for her next job, somewhere far away from here. Barbara's face had turned an interesting shade of red. "You planned this all along, didn't you? You've just been waiting for the right moment to stab us in the back." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "No, Barbara. I spent 10 years trying to be a good daughter and sister while you both took me for granted. I built this company from nothing while you collected accolades for my work. I only planned this—" I checked my watch again. "About 12 hours ago after you called me worthless in front of everyone we know." My phone buzzed. Another client termination notice. Our top client was threatening to pull their business unless leadership was stabilized immediately, exactly as I had anticipated, based on the documentation I had provided them about the licensing situation. "Time's running out. What's it going to be?" The next hour was a blur of paperwork and lawyers. By noon, I sat alone in what was now truly my office, looking out over the city. The company I had built was now officially mine, but the victory felt hollow. Family relationships lay in ruins around me, trust shattered like dropped crystal. Mom came to see me that evening, her eyes red from crying. She'd always tried to balance my father's favoritism, quietly supporting my technical interests, even while she stood by as he lavished attention on Barbara. During the worst of the power struggle with Barbara, she had remained painfully neutral, unwilling to challenge Dad's decisions, even when she disagreed. "Did it have to end this way?" she asked softly. "They gave me no choice," I replied, my voice gentle but firm. "They would have taken everything I built and discarded me without a second thought." She nodded slowly, understanding but sad. "What happens now?" I showed her the plans I had already drawn up, expansions, new product lines, innovations I had been holding back. Now I build something even bigger, but this time I do it without having to carry people who see me as worthless. Over the next year, Walker Technologies, under my sole leadership, tripled in value. Barbara found a job with a startup in Silicon Valley, humbled but hopefully wiser. Dad retired, finally understanding that his golden child had nearly destroyed his legacy. We see each other at holidays now, maintaining a polite distance that masks wounds that may never fully heal. Mom has become the family mediator, arranging our occasional dinners where we stick to safe topics and avoid any mention of the company. Sometimes, late at night, I look at old family photos and feel a twinge of sadness for what we lost. But then, I remember that night at the birthday party, the look of disdain on Barbara's face, the way Dad nodded along with her cruel words. In business and in family, respect is earned, not given. They learned that lesson too late. As for me, I learned that sometimes the quiet ones, the ones dismissed as worthless, are the ones you should watch out for, because we're the ones who know how to build something from nothing, and how to take it all back when others try to steal it. My story spread through business circles, a cautionary tale about underestimating the wrong person. These days, when I attend industry events, I often catch whispers. That's Olivia Walker, the one who... They never finish the sentence, but they don't have to. My success speaks for itself. Last week, I received an invitation to speak at Barbara's Business School's graduation ceremony. The topic, Hidden Strengths, the Power of Underestimated Leaders. I accepted the invitation with a small smile, already planning my speech. After all, I have quite a story to tell. The company continues to thrive under my leadership, but more importantly, I've found peace with my decisions. Sometimes the strongest message you can send is simply proving people wrong. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't about destroying others. It's about rising so high that they can't help but see their own mistakes. As I write this from my office overlooking the city, I'm reminded of something my mother once told me. Success is the best revenge, but wisdom is knowing when to stop seeking revenge and start seeking growth. She was right. I've moved past the need for revenge now. These days, I focus on building something meaningful, something that will outlast all the petty jealousies and family dramas. I still keep that wrapped birthday present I never gave Dad, a photo album of the company's journey from that tiny repair shop to what it is today. Maybe someday, when the wounds have healed enough, I'll finally give it to him. Until then, it serves as a reminder that our greatest strengths often come from the very things others underestimate about us.